Hello, I'm Laura Richcreek with Laura's Voice, and welcome to Laura Reads Foxed Books Season 2. Last season was dedicated to my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Haslam. This season is dedicated to my children. They'll figure out why. They are two of the neatest kids a mom could ask for. In Season 2, we'll be reading the early 20th century romantic comedy, The Misdemeanors of Nancy, by Eleanor Hoyt, illustrated by Penryn Stanlaws, originally published in 1902. Episode 1 introduces us to Nancy, with a brief appearance by her parents. Then she's on her own for the rest of the story. Well, there are some friends, a landlord or two, a French chef, a chaperone for a time, and lots of men. So let's meet Nancy and see what you think of her. The disreputable young person. An introduction. One could hardly approve of her. It was easy to adore her. If the fates had offered Nancy the choice of being approved or adored, she would have chosen the latter, without an instant's hesitation. So, on the whole, matters were satisfactorily arranged. Nancy's parents had their moments of protest. The young woman was indulgent yet firm with the malcontents. She pointed out to them that, after all, she was the victim of circumstances for which they were responsible. When a Kentucky belle marries a New Hampshire lawyer, there are rocks ahead for coming generations, she reasoned, having settled herself upon the arm of her father's chair and rumpled his gray hair into hopeless untidiness. Given Kentucky impulses and a New Hampshire conscience, what can one do? You really shouldn't expect much of me. Now, if Daddy had married one of his neighbors, I would be frostily sewing flannels for missionary boxes. If the little mother had married any one of the 6 men to whom she was engaged during her first season in society, I would have caught fire and flamed into matrimony before I was 20. As it is, my New Hampshire head keeps my Kentucky heart from running away with me, and my Kentucky heart keeps my New Hampshire head from reasoning me into a marriage for revenue only. I wash my hands of it. You two dear things are responsible. I'm tremendously sorry I can't marry ineligibility to please myself or eligibility to please you, but there you are. Daddy, do you know you are altogether beautiful with a fringe? The discussion ended with Nancy's being kissed. Discussions in which Nancy takes part often end that way. Frequently, they begin with the same formula. Chapter 1. A Dumbwaiter Drama. It was while Nancy's family were in Florida that she and Priscilla shared lodgings. They went the dreary round of boarding houses. Each new hall bedroom was an additional sinker tied to the spirits of the 2 girls. Priscilla grew morbid and found it necessary to take a nerve tonic. Even Nancy, the irrepressible, lost her appetite and her gaiety, and became embittered. The sight of any of the many bachelor apartment houses scattered through the town moved her to impotent rage. "My disposition is ruined," she confessed dismally. "When I pass one of those bachelor apartment places where unworthy men can get all the joys of paradise for $50 a month, I'm like a mad dog who sees water. I positively froth at the mouth. I'll marry the first bachelor who asks me, for the sake of getting even with him. As if petticoats weren't curse enough without adding hall bedrooms to woman's lot." Just at the critical moment when suicide, matrimony, and boarding-house existence were the courses being weighed in the minds of the forlorn young women, the patron saint of bachelor girls, who works over hours and must doze at times, woke up. He is a saint of expedience. He has to be. He couldn't hold down his job or his halo if he were not. He inspired a young married couple who owned a 3-room apartment on a quiet downtown street with a wild longing for European travel. Then he led the wife and Nancy, who were old friends, into the shopping district and threw them into each other's arms at a bargain counter. They told their life stories from the time of their last meeting 2 months before up to date. They had seats at the counter, so the women who were standing 8 deep and struggling for a chance at the saleswoman didn't bother them, and they could chat lazily. The young wife confided her plans for a European trip. Nancy sighed forth the story of her quest of the unattainable. Then they tumbled the remnants on the counter until the patron saint brought the young wife up with a round turn. He couldn't waste time. She gave the little cackle that in certain feminine types always accompanies the laying of an idea. "Oh, my dear, why not?" "Then again, why? And what?" asked Nancy flippantly. "Oh, it's the loveliest idea." "Isn't it just?" assented Nancy rapturously. "There's no reason why you shouldn't." "None in the world," agreed Nancy. "Then it's all settled?" "It is," admitted Nancy with a suggestion of sarcasm. "And now, since it is all settled, would you mind telling me what it is?" The young wife looked surprised. "Why, don't you understand? Can't you guess?" "I could," asserted Nancy, "but I never guess more than 3 things before luncheon, and I've had my 3. You and Priscilla will just take our rooms. We'd have to pay for them anyway, and you can pay a little part of the rent for the use of the furniture and things. It's the dearest little place, and you'll have such a lark. Come right down and see about things and tell Jack." "Maybe Jack wouldn't like it." The young wife's eyebrows surged toward her pompadour. "Now, really, my dear, do you suppose I haven't started him better than that?" The 2 women made a flying wedge through the bargain fiends and scurried downtown to a fine old house which had been remodeled for a use unknown to New York until a few years ago. The suites of 3, 4, or 5 rooms are artistic to a degree unknown in the ordinary flat. There is a dining room with each suite, but no kitchen. Not even a trace of culinary apparatus is in sight. All meals are cooked in the kitchen in the basement and sent up on dumbwaiters to the different apartments, where the maid employed by the owner of the rooms serves the meal and then piles the dishes on the dumbwaiter and sends them down to the kitchen to be washed and put away. It is privacy and home life made easy, a deification of the English lodging-house system to which, in its humbler form, New York has never taken kindly. Jack was complacent to a degree that spoke volumes for his wife's discipline. The proprietor of the house was interviewed and went down before Nancy's beaux yeux. The meals were the only stumbling block. They were elaborate. The menus were wonderfully and fearfully constructed by an expensive French chef. And the meals, like the chef, came high. "We can arrange it," said the affable landlord, moved by Nancy's disappointed upper lip. "It is exceptional. It must not be told. I have never allowed such an arrangement. But this is for a short time, and I like to accommodate my tenants. And Nancy is so infernally pretty," added Jack sotto voce. "Can you put up with a continental breakfast?" asked the landlord. Nancy could. "Coffee, rolls, butter, eggs. That will do, then. Our regular breakfast has 6 courses. Now about luncheon. We have also a 6-course luncheon." 2 courses would do for us," said Nancy humbly. "To be sure. The chef can send up the menu early, and you can choose. Then from the 9-course dinner you might choose 3 courses. You could live so?" Nancy thought that she might drag out a starving existence on that provision. Then she beamed upon the benevolent landlord, and the patron saint, feeling that he had done his duty, pulled his halo on firmly and started off to attend to the other bachelor girls. He had provided Nancy with the time and the place and the man. He knew she could manage the rest. So the young married couple moved out, and Nancy and Priscilla moved in. And this is really where the story begins, though a long preamble seemed a necessary evil. The girls had no maid. They couldn't afford one, and they felt themselves strong enough to take the dishes from the dumbwaiter to the table. When this arrangement was noised abroad, the hall boy assumed a condescending air, and the general house servants displayed a sort of haughty curiosity if they met the new tenants in the hall. Nancy was amused, but indignant. "I must reason with that hall boy," she said sweetly. "I don't like his manner." She reasoned. Inside of a week, the hall boy courted pneumonia on the front steps, watching for her to come home. And when she hove in sight, darted inside the door and looked as if he had swallowed all his buttons and were choking on them. During the first few days, the meals came up in rather higgledy-piggledy fashion. A severe-faced Irish girl put them on the dumbwaiter and jerked them up to the 2nd floor, in an emphatic way that spoke volumes of her opinion of young women who waited upon themselves. But on the 3rd evening, The girls heard a masculine voice calling up through the dumbwaiter to the maid on the 3rd floor. "You do not come down this day," said the reproachful voice in accents French. "You are offended? Yes? I am désolé." Nancy dropped her soup spoon and listened shamelessly. "But it was nothing. I did not mean to offend," the voice said.
"Take shame to yourself for kissing a girl without saying by your leave."
"It would be a more shame to ask for the leave, is it not?" Nancy arose with a gleam of battle in her eye. "Priscilla," she said sternly, "this is where I reason with the chef. Something tells me that he will be amenable to reason, if rightly approached." A moment later the upgazing Frenchman saw between him and the offended Irish maid a vision that made even his white cap quiver. A fluff of golden brown hair, sparkling gray eyes, flushed cheeks, dimples, a smile that would thaw a Teuton. What could a Frenchman do? "You are the chef?" asked a voice that would stir the soul of a clam. "Yes, mademoiselle," stammered the dazed Frenchman. If that voice had told him he was a Hottentot chieftain, he would have admitted the soft impeachment without a protest. "I've wanted so much to speak to you," cooed the vision. "You see, I am one of the young ladies who have taken Mrs. Blank's apartment for a little while. We are just doing it for fun while our people are away, and we haven't any maid, and we've arranged to take only part of the menu, but things haven't been quite nice, you know."
"Ah, mademoiselle!"
with anguish in the tone. "Oh, it isn't your fault. Things are deliciously cooked. That pâté last night. Such another was never made outside of Paris. But you see, things come up cold, and they aren't daintily served, and the menu isn't sent up for us to choose from. I thought you would make it all right, and now that I've seen you, I'm quite sure you will."
"But, mademoiselle, it is my privilege. I am unhappy to the heart that it has so happened. I go to change it all. Alphonse shall arrange. I shall overlook it myself."
"You are so very good," murmured the vision.
"Mademoiselle, it is you who are good, to give me the happiness to serve you."
A whistle blew in the kitchen. The white-capped head disappeared. Nancy went back to her soup. "Priscilla," she said meditatively, "something tells me that the next course will be hot." It was. The next morning, when Nancy whistled down for breakfast, the chef answered.
"Good morning, mademoiselle. You have slept well, is it not? I will send the déjeuner at once."
The breakfast tray came up a thing of beauty. Toast and muffins came with the rolls. The eggs were apotheosized in a mushroom omelet. The cream pitcher had multiplied its size by 2, and a pot of marmalade made its debut. "Priscilla," said Nancy as she eyed the tray, "reason is a wonderful thing, and it is unquestionably better developed in the masculine mind than in the feminine. I have always noticed that, in my experience. We women have intuition, but when I must appeal to reason, give me a man to deal with. Did you ever study psychology, Priscilla? Experimental psychology should be a part of every girl's education. It broadens her scope. It will stand by her when French and music fail her." She moved her napkin impressively. Priscilla looked mildly speculative. When Nancy becomes didactic, she is most edifying. "Still," she added musingly a few moments later, "there may be emergencies in life in which a knowledge of colloquial French is not to be despised." That night, when she looked down at the impressionable chef and asked for the menu, she spoke to him in his own language, spoke soft Parisian French, with only an adorable little struggle over the R's to hint at her being an alien.
"Quel ange,"
murmured the demoralized Frenchman. "It is always well, Priscilla, to give a fellow human being simple pleasure when one can," said Nancy later. "And then, presumably, the Irish girls at the other dumbwaiter slides do not understand the language of La Belle France. What a boon education is to woman! Shall we have oysters and fish and roast, or soup and entree and dessert, or salad and roast and fruit? This rule of 3 is crazing my poor brain." The dinner came up. It began with oysters, and when the roast had been discussed, the girls proceeded to clear up the table. The waiter whistle sounded. Nancy opened the slide. A silver dish of chestnut and lettuce salad confronted her.
"It is after the façon of the café anglais,"
said a voice from the lower regions. "Delicious," gushed Nancy. But when the salad was finished, there came another whistle, and a wonderful strawberry cream dawned upon the second floor back. The girls looked at each other. There was guilt on Nancy's countenance. Priscilla wore a severe expression. "You don't suppose he is going to keep it up, do you?" demanded Priscilla sternly. "Oh, no, of course not. He's merely trying to make up for past indignities and save the reputation of the kitchen," said Nancy with a cheerful innocence that seemed almost too perfect. Then Priscilla, in her turn, became didactic. "Moderation, my dear young friend, is the secret of happy living," she said. "Possibly," admitted Nancy. "One lives longer, but one doesn't live so well." Didactics invariably ended in unseemly mirth in the second floor back. The next morning 2 beautiful fresh pink roses adorned the breakfast tray. No one mentioned them. That night an 8-course dinner came up. The next day the same thing happened. "It must be stopped," said Priscilla. "I feel as if I had the landlord's spoons in my pocket." "But you wouldn't hurt the poor chef's feelings," urged Nancy gently. "You brought this thing on. You must stop it." Nancy looked hurt. "Go to that dumbwaiter and explain to the man that we appreciate his kindness, but we can't eat what we do not pay for," said Priscilla. When Priscilla is determined, she is very determined. "What I like about you is your fine Anglo-Saxon directness," said Nancy enthusiastically, but she went to the dumbwaiter and talked 10 minutes in French. Priscilla, who doesn't understand French, watched her suspiciously. "Well?" she demanded. "He was deeply hurt, desolated. He feared we thought him presuming. I relieved his mind. I told him what you said, translated into polite French. He quite understood. Our delicacy of feeling touched him to the heart. We must rest tranquil. He will arrange everything. He will put everything on an unimpeachable basis, and we will still live like Lucullus and his confrères." "Nancy!" distrustfully. Nancy dropped her bantering tone. "Now look here, my dear. I'm no more fond of downright theft than you are. I dislike this thing as much as you do. I will not have it, and I made the chef understand that, but I didn't heave a brick at him or hit him with an axe. I haven't the faintest idea what he means by his arrangement, and I will not allow anything that isn't square. And if you look at me like an accusing angel for 1 more minute, I'll throw the coffee pot at you. There." The conversation dropped. The breakfast was inoffensive. Luncheon, ditto. Dinner was monumental. The girls looked at it aghast. Someone tapped at their door. Nancy answered and confronted a smiling and benevolent landlord. She was the picture of detected crime, and inwardly gave thanks that only 1 course at a time was in evidence on the table.
"I've been talking to the chef," said the landlord, with an air of a fat and bold fairy godfather. "He tells me he sent up a bit of cream with your dinner last night, and you were dreadfully distressed about the thing. Now I have given positive orders," increased benevolence radiating from every pore, "that whenever he has more of anything nice than will be used by the other diners, he shall just send that course up with your things."
"So awfully good of you," smiled Nancy, "but I don't feel right about it." The landlord waved her off.
"It is all settled. The chef understands, and you must leave the matter with him."
He disappeared in an aureole of self-satisfaction. Nancy sat down on the nearest chair. "France is the country of diplomacy," she said with conviction. Just then the chef sent up a huge pastry heart filled with mocha cream.
"It is all arranged, yes," he said cheerfully. "I shall send of what is too much. I am command. Monsieur, he think it is all his idea to himself. Le voilà. He has been most imperative, yes. He would not that I should object. C'est dommage, mais it is necessaire that I do what I am told, mademoiselle. You would not like that I am discharged for not to obey. Eh bien, it is settled."
"Now, Priscilla, what can we do?" asked Nancy. It's worse than theft now. It's conspiracy, groaned Priscilla. I've done my best to be honest. I call the gods to witness that I was willing to give up even mocha cream for the sake of moral integrity, protested Nancy. So the girls lived upon the fat of the land. There was apparently too much of everything in the kitchen. Alphonse, the cook's assistant, took on either reflected or spontaneous fervor. The cuisine circled around the second floor back. I shall have a guest for dinner tonight, Nancy would announce down the dumbwaiter.
Allons, you shall be proud, mademoiselle.
And she was. The man who came often used to make out request programs and send them in advance. Nancy had but to mention them to the chef. When she came in late from the theater, the hall boy said mysteriously, Miss, the chef says, will you look on the dumbwaiter before you go to bed? A tray of lettuce sandwiches and cold lobster and celery mayonnaise and little birds in aspic was there. At afternoon tea time a whistle from the kitchen sounded.
The tartines for the tea. It is good so, mademoiselle, said the chef.
Thank heaven we shall be here only 6 weeks, sighed Priscilla of the Puritan conscience. I shall never feel honest again as long as I live. The 6 weeks went by quickly, and Nancy's family was due on Monday. On Sunday she told the amiable landlord that she would be leaving the next day. He had been somewhat prepared for the blow, and bore up nobly. But when Nancy took the Sunday luncheon from the waiter, an agitated face appeared at the kitchen slide.
Mademoiselle,
said the chef in trembling French,
I hear something. I hear that you leave tomorrow. It is not so? No? It is? Mon Dieu!
He vanished. Nancy went back to the sitting room, looking thoughtful. Priscilla, she said with a little furrow between her brows, what was that exceedingly original and instructive remark of yours about moderation? Priscilla went out for tea. Nancy sat reading by a shaded lamp. The hall-boy brought her a card. Monsieur Francois-Henri Veuillet, she read in a puzzled way. Show the gentleman in, she said. Then she looked at the card some more with an evident effort to corral a fugitive memory. She had lived in Paris for 3 years. Had she known this Frenchman there, or had some Parisian friend given him a card of introduction to her, or— The door opened. A tall, handsome Frenchman, in an irreproachable frock-coat, stood bowing to her. Distinguished, immaculate, graceful, but visibly agitated, he faced her. There was something strangely familiar about him. She must have known him in Paris. How awkward that she should have forgotten. She smiled a welcome. Monsieur.
Mademoiselle.
The voice was more familiar than the face. Nancy looked dazed.
Mademoiselle.
Then a torrent of French broke loose and surged through the room. It washed Nancy off her feet, and she sat down limply.
It is a liberty. You will turn me away, but it is desperate. You go. I see you no more. It is to die. My heart is torn. I must speak.
The excited Frenchman was on his knees before her, raving, pleading, sobbing. She looked helplessly toward the bell by the door. Mad, evidently, quite mad, and there was no one she could call. She must humor him and escape. Heavens, what nonsense he talked! But he was gentle in spite of his mania. He did not touch her, he only raved of her hair and her eyes and her voice and his adoration. Where had she seen him? Where had she known him? How had it happened that he should come to her? She was desperately frightened, but she pulled herself together and smiled at him sweetly. But I cannot answer all this now, she said with Machiavellian strategy. It is so sudden. You must be patient. You will go away now and come again, and I will talk to you then. The kneeling man seized her hand and covered it with kisses.
Mon Dieu, you give me hope. You are not insulted. You realize that I am a man and a Frenchman. Rank, what is that? Moi, I am of Rousseau a disciple. It is but to love. That levels all. You see the man under the cook.
The cook? Nancy gave one great gasp of comprehension. The handsome, impassioned face, with its dapper mustache and its imperial, framed itself in white linen and stood out against a background of dumbwaiter walls. Gracious heavens! The chef! Her sins had found her out, and she had told him to come again and talk love to her. And now what could she say except the truth? She would tell him she had thought him a lunatic, and that she hadn't meant to encourage him, and it would be so hard on him. Nancy hates making a man unhappy, whether he's a chef or a millionaire. Still, she couldn't accept the chef to save his feelings. She must say something. There was a rap on the door. The patron saint had wakened once more. The Frenchman sprang to his feet. Nancy's heart leaped for joy. She recognized the knock. "Come," she said faintly, and the man who came often stepped into the room. He felt the electricity in the air and stopped short, looking at that flushed and nervous Frenchman with that chilly aggressiveness which covers the Anglo-Saxon like a garment when he does not understand. Nancy shot one beseeching, imploring glance at him. Then she rose to the occasion. "Bobby, this is Monsieur Veuillet. He has been a very good friend to Priscilla and me. You will want to thank him. Monsieur Veuillet, this is Mr. Stanton, my fiancé." Bobby gave one startled gasp, then looked at Nancy and shut his mouth firmly. The Frenchman bowed low. His face was white, and his lips trembled under the dapper mustache, but his manner was intact.
"Monsieur is to be congratulated. It is an honor even to be called Mademoiselle's friend. I have the honor to wish you both good day."
He was retiring in good order. Nancy looked at him doubtfully, then suddenly reached out her hand. "Goodbye, monsieur. I am very grateful to you. Forgive me. I did not dream." He bent and kissed her hand, with a manner that would have done credit to a marquis of the old regime.
"It was I who dreamed, mademoiselle."
The door closed behind him. She turned to an irate Bobby who bristled with a demand for explanation. "Pardon my taking liberties with you, Bobby. I won't carry it any further and insist upon being really engaged to you, and he will not spread the report. He's not in our set."
"Who is the beggar? If he was annoying you, I'll break—"
"Oh, no. You won't break every bone in his body. You'll never see him again. He's our chef." The man uttered an exclamation that sounded unfit for polite society, but Nancy created a diversion by dropping down upon the divan and beginning to cry hysterically. "I'm a beast," she sobbed, "a wretched little beast, and I'll never smile at a man again so long as I live." But she did. That night, as Priscilla was dozing sleepward, Nancy shook her into attention. "Priscilla," she said resolutely, "I shall never be happy until I've had a French count making love to me. If an ordinary Frenchman can do the thing so magnificently, what, oh, what would the nobility achieve?" End of Introduction and Chapter 1, A Dumbwaiter Drama. What did you think? Can you hardly approve of Nancy? Or do you find it easy to adore her? I might have moments of relating more to Priscilla than Nancy, but I still find her likable and am amused at the role Bobby was suddenly thrust into. I've had fake boyfriends before to get out of awkward situations. Next Friday, we'll read Chapter 2, A Lesson in Democracy. I might call it an exercise in improvisation, but either way, it's a fun chapter. This has been The Misdemeanors of Nancy by Eleanor Hoyt, illustrated by Penryn Stanlaws. Original copyright 1902. This work is in the public domain. Production copyright 2025 by Laura E. Richcreek. Thanks for listening. Don't forget the notes in the description section, as well as in an accompanying video. See you in the next video.